Alright, in this video, I want to talk about the end. And the end is depicted by this statue here. If you haven't read Daniel, I suggest you do. And I suggest you read Daniel chapter 2 and really go over that and think about it. Compare it to history. Because when you do, and you look at the world today, you'll see that God told us the end from the beginning so that we would know He is the I Am. As we look at this statue, it was actually given to Nebuchadnezzar in a dream. And he couldn't remember the dream, but it troubled him. And he wanted his wise men to tell him the interpretation of the dream, but they needed to know the dream to tell him the interpretation. And he was like, no. You're playing games here. If you can really tell me the interpretation of my dream, then you can tell me what my dream was. No one could do it. He was going to kill all the wise men. Then Daniel was like, hey, I can't tell you your dream or the interpretation, but there is a God that can. There's a God that's God over everything. And give me time to commune with him, and I'll tell you your dream and the interpretation. And he went with his friends, and they prayed, and the revelation was given to Daniel. And Daniel went up and told the king his dream. And the king was like, yes, I remember it now. You know how that is? You wake up, you can't remember your dream, but it's really getting to you. And then something throughout the day happens or is said, and it reminds you of the dream, and all of a sudden you can remember it. That's what I imagined happened right here. And Daniel explains to him the dream. He had a statue, a very tall statue, the head of gold, and this is you. He says, this is you, Nebuchadnezzar, and it's your kingdom, the Babylon kingdom. And he said, but another one inferior to yours will show up, the Medo-Persian Empire, represented by the silver chest and arms, and then another inferior country, kingdom, will take over them, and it's the belly and thighs of brass, which is Greece, and then eventually the legs of iron, Rome, another inferior kingdom, is going to take over. And then lastly, we have the feet of iron and clay, right? This is the final stage. And to understand the final stage, we have to understand what the clay is. In the depiction of Daniel chapter 2, it's not just clay, it's miry, baked clay. What that means is that it's dirty and it's hardened, where you can't mold it into something else. It's stubborn, right? Giving you the depiction of the type of people these are. And when you read in Isaiah and through Jeremiah, you'll notice that there's times where God refers to Israel as what? Clay, and how he is the potter. And that they need to submit to him so that he can mold them. But, they're stubborn and they're stiff. They're, like we see here, miry and baked, where you can't do anything with it. You can't clean it out and make something out of it because it's hardened. It would have to be broken down and reconstituted, renewed, or reborn for it to have any value, to be able to use it. So, in the time when Jesus showed up, around 2,000 years ago, the Jews understood Daniel, maybe not perfectly, but they knew of Daniel's 70 weeks in Daniel chapter 9. And they knew that, hey, after 62 weeks, the Messiah is going to show up. That's why at that time, people were looking for the Messiah. They're like, he should be here. Where is he? Because you see, this is how they expected him. You see this rock, as Daniel described, is cut without hands, and it smashes into the statue at the feet of iron and clay, and he destroys the statue. And the Jews realize that they are the kingdom of iron and clay because Rome had conquered them, and they didn't quite come together, right? Just like iron and clay doesn't mix, Rome and Israel never quite came together, but they were together. And even the Jews ended up saying, "We have no king but Caesar," and that really ultimately was what sealed that deal, that's the feet of iron and clay, right? But when Jesus came into Jerusalem as king, riding on a donkey, that the people accepted him as king, saying, "Hosanna in the highest." But the religious leadership, Israel as a whole, as the general majority, rejected him and ended up using the Romans to crucify him, right? And this is a depiction of the end times. There's nothing new under the sun. What has happened will happen. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Nothing new. What has happened is actually required to happen. You want to know the future? Look at the past. God has told us the end from the beginning. So they were fully expecting, no, you're not the Messiah. He's going to come and he's going to destroy all this and then establish his kingdom. Right? That's what they were expecting. But they didn't realize two things. One, that he's also coming to pay for their sins, that he's the Lamb of God. And they didn't realize that they had to actually accept him as king. You see, after they crucified him, and while he's being crucified, Jesus says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." They were given a second chance to accept him. And we see this through Stephen in Acts chapters, I think it's 6 and 7. It might actually be a little bit longer than that, where he's given this speech to the Jews. And it's basically a chance for them to accept Jesus. And as they reject Jesus, Stephen looks up to heaven and sees Jesus standing at the right hand of God. He's standing because if the Jews accepted him, whoop, this would have happened. He would have came as king and destroyed the kingdom that's there and established his kingdom. But since they rejected him, there's a little cutoff in that Daniel's 70th week has been delayed. There's been a period of grace given. And we've been in that period of grace for 2,000 years and is about to come to an end. We see Israel is restored, and you can see that Roman Catholicism has a huge place and influence in Israel, and that the Roman Empire is coming back. What Russia and China and Brazil and Middle East is doing is actually pushing a lot of countries to join NATO. And the Roman Empire is reforming. And I believe that they're going to end up intentionally destroying the Dome of the Rock to incite the Muslims to create a problem reaction solution where the Muslims are going to come after the Jews so that the Jews will accept the offer that the Roman Empire gives them. Because right now, Israel, they're not going to accept the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire has to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We'll come in, we'll destroy the Muslim nations, and we'll fight for you. But you have to allow us to move the headquarters to Jerusalem of the UN and move the Vatican there, and we'll establish your temple on the Dome of the Rock there. And yeah, how is it? You know, that's the covenant. That's the covenant that's confirmed because Israel has already made it clear that where the Dome of the Rock is, that area is owned by the Holy See, the Vatican, the Catholic Church. So they would confirm that by making this deal, and boom, you have the iron and clay again. Everything's being restated, or not restated, redone. It's going back to the way it was when Jesus left. It's going to be like in that state, and that's how Jesus is going to return. It's going to be similar to how it was when he left, in the power of the kingdoms, that is. And then they're going to have to end up saying, "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord," for him to come and return, right? And that's going to be what the whole time of Jacob's trouble is to get them to realize the king they accepted, the king that they wanted to rule over them, isn't a good king, right? Like Saul was the first king of Israel. Well, the first king of this reinstated Israel is going to be the Antichrist, the beast, a depiction of Saul, and he's going to do horrible things to the country. And David, the beloved, representing Jesus, is the king that ends up replacing him. But Israel has to call on him, right? And that's what we see going on right here. This about to happen. And I hope this video is putting that together, making it clear for you. Jesus is coming back soon, because this, I think, just like when the dispensation changed from Judaism to Christianity, there was a little bit of overlap. And after Jesus left and things went from Judaism to Christianity in the book of Acts, it still took a while. It was about almost 40 years after Jesus left, 70 AD, that finally Rome destroyed Israel, right? So that kingdom here was still together at that time. And then later on, because of growing Christianity, the Roman Empire fell. And then it tried to stop the spread of Christianity by becoming the enemy, right? If you can't beat them, join them. And I think it was Stalin who said that the best way to defeat your enemy is to become your enemy. And that's exactly what the Roman Empire did. They tried to say that they're Christian, like a big, giant, obvious wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, they look more like a ferocious dire wolf or even a bear with a little sheepskin on it, trying to pretend that it's a sheep. And it's blatantly obvious that they're not a sheep, but some people are like, hey, well then how does it have this sheepskin on it? Like, they're very easily fooled, right? But anyway, uh, so we see that this is the deadly wound that's going to be healed, the Roman Empire restored, and then the feet of iron and clay reconstituted. And the continuing of Daniel's 70 weeks, so that there's going to be some period here where we see that we're still in the church age, but Israel is here. And we see the Roman Empire forming back. And it's, to us, it's taking time and it's very slow, but it's happening. And it's only a matter of time before the Roman Empire is settled and they end up fusing again with Israel. And once that happens, by the time that happens, we should be gone. By the time the Roman Empire is established, it's probably not going to be called the Roman Empire, but who knows? Maybe it will. And the Dome of the Rock is destroyed to rile up the Muslims to create a problem action solution kind of thing, we're going to be raptured. The church age is going to end. Time of Jacob's trouble, Daniel's 70th week, is going to be ushered in, and it's going to take this Saul, this Antichrist figure, to get them to end up calling on God and to accept Jesus. Because this Antichrist figure, he's going to end up claiming to be God in their temple that he ends up helping to restore. And I think this is a wake-up call, right? A wake-up call where they see that, hey, this isn't right. And there's some zealous Jews that I think assassinate the Antichrist, maybe even in the temple when he claims to be God, to show that, hey, gods don't die, right? And this infuriates the Antichrist in the Roman Empire because he's claiming to be God, and you just kind of ruined that image that he was given to the world, right? You show that he's not, right? And this is when he turns on the Jews, right? They have this covenant, 3.5 years in, he claims to be God. They kill him because he claims to be God. That's when he's like, hey, nope, turning on you. And he raises from the dead. But he has a darkened right eye, a withered right arm from the injury. He's different, right? And because of this, he has to seek revenge. Very vengeful, right? So then he turns on all the Jews and starts a Holocaust. And it takes another 3.5 years before the Jews finally call on Jesus, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord, to finally have this event that they were waiting for 2,000 years ago to free them from the Roman Empire. They just got to eat the humble pie first. They got to come to God on his terms, not their own. God doesn't come to them on their terms, which is what a lot of Christians do today, right? They think God's going to roll out the red carpet and come down and meet them. Like, God comes to me on my standards and he accepts my works. Me trying not to sin, me doing religious rituals, me doing good for others. I am so great. God's going to roll down the red carpet, come to me, and take me to heaven personally. It's like, no, eat the humble pie. It's like that old story about somebody lost at sea, and the guy lost at sea says, God save me, right? And somebody in a rowboat comes by, and he's like, hey, get in the boat, I'll help you. And the guy says, no, God's going to save me. And it's, see the lack of humility there. That's how Christians are, right? They think God's going to come down with that red carpet, come get them. And he's like, no, sometimes you just send somebody in a rowboat, some donkey to talk to you, like me. And there you go. Like Cornelius in Acts chapter 10 was a devout man to God, but he wasn't saved. He had to come to Peter, who was this bum, and hear the words of salvation. And if he didn't believe what Peter said, he wouldn't have been saved, even if he was still devout, because you're not saved by your works. You're saved by what Jesus did for you. And then, how the story goes, the guy says, nope, God's going to save me. So God's like, all right. He sends something like a helicopter to him. And he's like, nope, God's going to save me. And God's like, man, all right, let's send a yacht, like a cruise ship. Send that cruise ship out there, He not only will he be saved, he can have a good time on that while he gets home. Nope, God's going to save me, right? And the guy drowns, and he gets mad at God. Why didn't you save me? Just like a lot of these Christians. They're going to be judged by God. Why didn't you save me? I did. I died for you 2,000 years ago, and I sent so many people to you to lead you to the cross, and you kept spitting in their face and mocking them, and you turned away. They told you that I saved you, and I asked you to come lay down your life at the cross, and you laughed at the idea. I was willing to give you my life for yours, but you wouldn't do it. You kept a hold of your life, even though you know you're a sinner, and you know you're eventually going to die, but you wouldn't let go of that life so I could give you mine. I sent you the rowboat, I sent you the helicopter, I sent you the yacht, the cruise ship, and you didn't accept any of it. What do you want? You think you're special where he's going to roll out the red carpet, walk all the way down so the whole world can see him come down and grab you and pick you up to heaven himself because you're just that great of a person? You're better than everybody else? He already did that for all of us at the cross. That cross is where you meet God. God and man intersect. You don't want to come to it. You don't want to lay down your life there. You want to establish your own righteousness. Well, then you're going to get what you get. At the end of that story, the man drowned because he wouldn't accept the way God saved him. He wanted God to save him in the way he wanted to be saved. It's not how it works. You come to God on his terms, he doesn't come to you on your terms. I don't know who you think you are. You got to eat that humble pie. You got to eat it quick because time's running out, and you never know when your time's going to be up. Could be today. God willing, it's not, but you never know. I want to call out to Jesus to save you today. Matter of fact, right now. But anyway, I just wanted to wrap something up here. Again, with this iron and clay thing, there's a lot of people who talk about how all roads lead to Rome. It's the Jesuits. There's others who say, no, it's the Zionist Jews. And there's evidence for both, right? That's because it is both of them. It's a two-pronged system going on here. It is the Jesuits and the Zionists. And eventually they're going to fuse here, but it doesn't quite come together because iron and clay doesn't quite mix, especially when the clay is already baked and it's dirty. But they try to come together anyway because, you know, they said they have no king but Caesar. So if they have a king, it's going to be a Caesar, a Roman pontiff, because that's what they put upon themselves. So, yeah, that's what's coming to pass here shortly. I guess that's about it. Thanks for watching, and take care.